Welcome back to AI Podcast. Great to have you with us. Okay, think about all those little, maybe tedious things you do online every day.
Mm-hmm.
Booking a flight, maybe comparing prices across a few different stores, scraping some data for work.
Yeah, pulling contact info, that kind of thing.
Right, or even just looking at a recipe and adding the ingredients to your online grocery cart. It adds up, doesn't it?
It really does. A lot of clicking, typing, navigating between tabs.
Yeah,
It's just manual work.
exactly. Well, what if AI could, just do all that for you?
And that's pretty much what we're diving into today here on AI Podcast. We're unpacking Project Mariner. It's this really fascinating new research prototype coming out of Google DeepMind.
Okay, Mariner. Sounds nautical.
Hey, yeah. Well, we've been digging through the sources articles, some research summaries, notes people took from early demos. And our mission really is to figure out, what is this thing? How's it actually work? What can it do online? And, the big one.
Hmm.
Why should you care? What does it mean?
Yeah, because the buzz around it uses phrases like a step into the agentic era of AI. Sounds significant.
It does. It implies AI isn't just like a search engine or a chatbot anymore. It's becoming an agent, something that takes action.
An agent doing things for you online. Okay, yeah, let's definitely unpack that. So what is Project Mariner at its core?
So fundamentally, it's a research prototype. Still early days, keep that in mind. It's built by Google DeepMind, and it's using their latest Gemini 2.0 model.
Okay, Gemini 2.0 powered.
Right. And the simplest way to think about it, based on the descriptions, is an agentic browser companion.
Agentic browser companion.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So like a super smart assistant that lives right in my Chrome browser, maybe?
Pretty much, yeah. Its main job is to observe what's happening on your screen. And here's the really interesting part.
Mhm.
It doesn't just read the source code, the HTML behind the page. It's designed to understand the visual interface, how the page looks.
It sees the page, like visually.
Exactly. It looks at the pixels, the text, where the buttons are, the forms, the images, the whole layout, kind of like how you or I would scan a web page.
That feels like a big leap from just processing text or code.
It is, because based on seeing that visual layout and understanding the goal you give it, say, book a flight, it then reasons step by step. It figures out how to achieve that goal using the visual elements on the page.
And then it actually clicks the buttons.
Yeah.
Types in the boxes.
Yes, that's the acting on your behalf bit. It executes the actions clicking, typing, navigating, scrolling, whatever's needed.
And I can see this happening. It's not hidden away.
No, the sources emphasize it's visible. You see it happening in a live browser view. You can literally watch Mariner carry out the steps.
Okay, that's important for trust, I guess.
Definitely. And it operates under your supervision. It's typically managed, they say, through a Chrome extension, but the actual heavy computation, the seeing and reasoning, that happens in the cloud on virtual machines.
Right, cloud VMs. Makes sense. This sounds computationally intensive. What about doing multiple things? Can it multitask?
Yeah, that's another key point mentioned. It's apparently designed for parallel processing. The goal is to automate up to, I think it was, 10 tasks simultaneously.
Whoa, 10 tasks at once. That could be huge for, like, research or data gathering.
Absolutely. Imagine setting off 10 different searches or processes in the background.
Okay, so who gets to play with this right now? Is
Yeah.
it widely available?
No, not yet. Very limited. Currently, it's just a prototype for U.S. subscribers to Google's AI Ultra tier.
So top tier US only prototype. Got it.
But the plan, according to the sources, is for gradual integration into Google's wider AI world.
How so?
They're talking about bringing its capabilities into the Gemini API so developers could use it, and also integrating it into the Gemini app's agent mode and even Google Search's AI mode.
Okay. So you could maybe ask Search or Gemini to do something directly, not just find information.
That seems to be the direction, yeah, making it more seamless.
Let's dig into the features that make this work. You mentioned multimodal observation, seeing the page visually.
Right. And this is so important because, the web isn't just text, it's interactive forms, complex layouts, images, charts, videos.
Right.
Mariner's ability to understand all these visual elements lets it interact with pretty much any website or web app. It doesn't need a special API or perfectly structured data. It just looks at the GUI.
It learns the graphical user interface.
Okay.
So it sees the page,
Yeah.
then has to figure out what to do next, the reasoning and planning.
Exactly. You give it a goal, maybe something complex like find the best reviewed Italian restaurant near me that's open now and book a table for two.
Okay, multi-step.
Right. Mariner needs to break that down. Search for restaurants, filter by Italian, check reviews, find opening hours, look for a book a table button or link, click it, fill in the form. It plans that sequence of interactions.
Using the visual cues on the page.
Using the visual cues.
Yeah.
And then it actually does it. Clicking, typing, navigating.
And you mentioned the transparency, you see it happening.
Yes, you see the browser window changing in real time.
Right.
It's not some black box process happening somewhere else. You're watching it work, supervising.
That visual feedback loop seems critical. Now, there was another feature mentioned that sounded really, really interesting. Teach and repeat. What's that about?
Yes. This one could be huge for regular users. The idea is you can teach Mariner a workflow, maybe a multi-step task you do often,
Yeah.
simply by doing it yourself once while Mariner watches.
Wait, I just performed the task normally in my browser?
Exactly. You do it once. Mariner observes your actions, where you click, what you type, which pages you visit. It learns that sequence.
When then?
Then later on, you can just tell it, hey, run that report or do that weekly price check, and it can replicate the exact steps you showed it.
So, I don't need to write any code or script. I just show it by doing.
That's the core idea, yeah. It democratizes web automation. Anyone who can do the task in a browser could potentially teach the AI to do it for them.
That is, wow. That lowers the barrier significantly.
It really does. Makes complex automation potentially accessible to everyone.
But, okay, giving an AI the keys to click and type anywhere, that sounds like it needs some serious guardrails. What about control and safety?
Yeah, the sources definitely highlight transparency and control. You get live logs, apparently, showing exactly what Mariner is doing step by step.
Okay, logs are good.
And you have options to intervene. There's like a takeover button, so you can jump in and take control back instantly. You can pause or resume the task. And crucially, they mention frequent permission prompts. Before it does anything major, like confirming a purchase or submitting sensitive info, it asks for your explicit okay.
So it stops and asks, are you sure you want me to buy this? Or something similar.
Precisely. It's not fully autonomous, especially now. Human oversight is built in as a critical part of the process. You're the supervisor.
Got it. Supervisor, not just a user. All right, let's make this more concrete. The sources talked about some demos. What kind of real-world tasks did they show Mariner doing?
Yeah, the demos sound pretty cool. One was about gathering business leads. You'd start with, say, a Google sheet with a list of company names.
Right.
Mariner scans the sheet, grabs the first name, searches Google for their website, clicks through to the site, and then uses its visual understanding to hunt for contact info on the page. Maybe an email on the Contact Us page or a phone number in the footer.
Even if it's just plain text, not specially marked up.
Exactly. It reads the interface, then it scrapes that info, maybe puts it back into the Google sheet, and moves on to the next company name. Automating a really tedious task.
Yeah, I can see that being useful. What else? Shopping.
Yep, online shopping was another big one. Imagine you've got a recipe open, maybe in Google Docs.
Okay.
Mariner can apparently read the recipe, identify the ingredients list, figure out what you might need, then hop over to an online grocery store site like Safeway or Instacart was mentioned, search for those specific items visually on the site, find the right ones, and add them to your online cart.
It connects reading a doc to actions on a totally different shopping site. That's quite integrated.
It is, and the sources suggested it could go further, even handling the entire purchase process, not just filling the cart.
The whole checkout.
Yeah, demos apparently showed it could handle end-to-end buying. Give it a prompt like, buy 2 decent seats for the baseball game next Saturday. And it could potentially navigate the ticket site, pick seats, maybe fill in your details from stored info, and go through the checkout flow. Same idea for groceries, the whole path.
Wow. Completing the entire multi-step purchase workflow, that's definitely stepping into that agentic space. It's doing the whole job.
It really is. It's about delegating that whole complex goal. And there was one demo example that really tied it all together, involving multiple steps and sites.
Oh, yeah. What was that one?
The prompt was something like, find the most famous post-impressionist painter, then find a colorful painting by them on Google Arts and Culture, then add some colorful paints from Etsy to my cart.
Okay, that's specific. Research, browsing one site, then shopping on a completely different platform. How did it manage that?
So the descriptions say it broke it down logically. First, research. Identifies Van Gogh.
Right.
Then, action 1, navigates to Google Arts and Culture, searches for Van Gogh, visually picks out a colorful painting. Then, transition, understands the next part is about buying paints, not just looking at art. So action 2 goes to Etsy.
Okay.
Searches Etsy for colorful paints, maybe watercolors, finds a product, adds it to the Etsy cart, and then crucially, it pauses. It waits for the user to confirm before actually starting the Etsy checkout.
That pause or confirmation is key. But the way it chained together those different domains, art history, art browsing, e-commerce, that really shows the potential, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It's executing a plan across different contexts based on a single high-level instruction. That's the agentic idea in action.
Beyond those demos, did the sources list other potential uses? Where else could this kind of thing be applied?
Oh yeah, lots of ideas were floated. Job hunting was one. Imagine giving it your resume.
And having Mariner search niche job boards, filtering postings based on your experience described in the resume, and then showing you just the really relevant openings.
That would save hours of sifting through irrelevant listings.
Definitely. Travel planning, too. Giving it a prompt like, find me a flight from New York to London next Tuesday, and letting it handle the searching, comparing prices across airlines or aggregators, and maybe even starting the booking process.
Okay.
Or local research. Generating a travel itinerary. You say, plan a weekend in Paris, and it finds potential restaurants, attractions, checks opening times, maybe compiles it into a doc.
What about bridging the digital and sort of real-world services?
Yeah, there was a scenario like that mentioned. Maybe you get an email confirming a furniture delivery. Mariner could read that email, understand you need assembly, grab the delivery date and item details, then navigate to a site like TaskRabbit and actually book a handyman for the right day.
Whoa. Reading context from one app, email, to take action in a completely different service, TaskRabbit, that ability to connect the dots is pretty powerful. It really is. The underlying goal seems to be automating pretty much any multi-step task you currently do manually clicking around in your browser.
Right, so we've got a good picture of what it is, the tech behind it, and these potential use cases. Let's zoom out again. Why does Project Mariner matter? What's the big so what for you, the listener?
Well, the most obvious benefit highlighted everywhere is saving time. Serious time. It automates those repetitive, often boring browsing tasks, the shopping comparisons, the research digging, the data entry, the planning. It frees you up.
Time is definitely the currency here.
For sure. And it's coupled with that transparency we talked about. You see what it's doing. It's not a mystery box. You can supervise, build trust, step in if needed.
That visible process is key, especially if it's handling, say, your money or personal information.
Exactly. Then there's the multitasking power, doing 10 things at once, potentially. That's an efficiency boost no human can really match manually.
True.
And that teach and repeat feature, making automation accessible without needing to be a programmer, that's a potentially huge democratizing force.
So, big potential upsides. Time savings, accessibility, transparency, multitasking. But it's a prototype. What are the catches, the limitations mentioned?
Yeah, definitely some caveats. Performance was one. Sometimes these tasks might run slower than a human doing them, possibly due to the cloud processing overhead and those necessary pauses for permission checks.
Okay, so it's not necessarily faster yet.
Not always, based on the early reports. And linked to that is reliability. Interpreting the visual chaos of the modern web, every site having quirks, pop-ups, weird layouts, it's incredibly hard.
Yeah, websites can be messy.
So errors can happen. It might misinterpret a page, click the wrong thing, get stuck. User supervision isn't just a nice to have. The sources imply it's essential right now to make sure things go right.
You still need to babysit it a bit, especially for anything important.
Pretty much, yeah. It's not fire and forget yet, which leads directly into security and privacy.
Right, giving an AI this much browser access.
It requires serious thought. The permission prompts, the pause takeover features are safeguards, but the sources stress that ultimately human oversight is critical. You need to be mindful of what data it's seeing and what actions it's taking.
Makes total sense. Powerful tool, needs careful handling. So what's next for Mariner? What's the roadmap look like?
Well, first step is wider availability. The plan is to expand beyond that limited US AI Ultra tier. The target mentioned was around summer 2025.
Okay, so maybe more people getting access next year sometime.
Hopefully. Then there's deeper integration. We mentioned the Gemini API for developers, but also plugging it into Google Search's AI mode and the Gemini app's agent mode. Imagine starting one of these tasks right from your search results or a chat window.
Yeah, that feels like a much more natural way to kick things off. What about making it work better, faster, more reliable?
That's definitely on the roadmap. They're aiming for speed improvements, making the permission prompts maybe less disruptive but still safe, and just generally making it more stable and robust as it matures.
And for developers wanting to build their own agents using this tech.
The plan includes access via the Gemini API and likely Vertex AI down the line. That would let businesses and developers build custom agents tailored to their specific needs using this core Mariner technology.
So it could become a platform for others to build on top of.
That seems to be the vision, yeah. Moving beyond just a Google feature to enabling a broader ecosystem of AI agents.
Okay, let's try and wrap this up. Project Mariner. It really does feel like a concrete step into this agentic era of AI we hear about.
It absolutely does. It's shifting AI from just providing information or chatting to actually doing things for you online. You delegate the task, it handles the clicks and keystrokes.
Through that sophisticated visual understanding, the planning, the direct action, and even learning just by watching you.
And the potential payoff is clear. Automating shopping, booking travel, research, data gathering, potentially saving you a lot of time and hassle.
But it's important to remember, it's still experimental. A research prototype. User supervision, being aware of the limitations, that's key right now.
Definitely. But the direction, the roadmap, it points towards a future where AI plays a much more active role in navigating the digital world for us, taking initiative, handling complex tasks across websites.
So what does this all mean for you? Well, it suggests we might be moving towards a different relationship with our browsers, with the internet.
Right.
Instead of being the only one doing the work, we could become more like directors.
Yeah, delegating the routine digital chores to an AI agent, freeing us up for other things, automating away some of that digital busy work.
It's a pretty compelling vision. So here's a final thought to leave you with as you go about your day. If an AI agent like Mariner can learn a complex online workflow just by watching you do it once, what's
Yeah.
that one tedious online task you do regularly, the one you really dislike? Could you imagine showing an AI how to do it just once and then delegating it forever? How might that change your daily grind?
Yeah, think about that task. What would you automate first? Something to mull over.
Definitely something to think about as this tech develops. Okay, that's our deep dive for today here on AI Podcast. Join us again on Monday for our weekly news update.